In this Washington, where supposedly nothing gets done, we've done so much that it's hard to keep track of it all. So I'm just going to start going around calling it the big deal. Teddy Roosevelt had the square deal. FDR had the New Deal. So I'm going to say this body of defining achievements, this incredibly productive period, amounts to such a big deal that we ought to just call it the big deal. And if, in the tradition of our president, you'd like to insert an extra adjective in there, feel free. And this big deal, standing on its own, would define our times, and we would be proud of it for a generation, and it would be enough to motivate us to get out there and vote in November for the right leadership in this state, in every state, and federally.
This is the port of Savannah in Georgia, the second largest port on the East Coast. This map shows ship locations, tracked by the company Marine Traffic. On August 19th, there was a backup of about 30 container ships. Similar backlogs have formed at the ports in New York and Houston.
This is important because it makes life difficult for businesses, particularly small businesses. And it's also important because it helps to keep the cost of shipping goods high, which contributes to inflation.
But of course, for all the reasons that Democrats have given us to get out there and vote, Republicans have given us even more. This is not only the era of the big deal, it is also the era of the big lie. And so we need to talk about what we're up against. And before we even get into the extremism and the danger to our democracy, let's just take a look at the basics of their policy agenda. Because every once in a while, one of your friends, your Republican friends, will say, I know, I don't like the last president either. They're a little nutty, but you know, it's the policy. I'm there for the policy. I like the policy. But look at where that policy has gone. In the end, it has come down to really just three pillars of policy: keeping tax cuts for the wealthiest, building a wall, and ending women's reproductive freedoms.
The worst bottlenecks at U.S. ports have been concentrated at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach in Southern California, where earlier this year there was a backup of more than 100 container ships. This year, cargo growth has slowed at the Southern California ports, the main U.S. gateway for goods imported from Asia, but volumes headed into the country through the East and Gulf coasts have kept rising.
When these are their policies, when these are their priorities, those priorities aren't just wrong for America, they're deeply unpopular with the American people. They're out of step with the American people, which is why they're turning on democracy. It is precisely because their current economic and social agenda has become so radical and so unpopular that a dominant force within the once great Republican Party now feels the need to subvert democracy itself, denying elections, making excuses.
Stolen. He's an illegitimate president. He's an illegitimate president.
You know, pretending to be president.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he didn't.
1/3 of Clinton's supporters say Trump election is not legitimate.
I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win.
You are absolutely right. You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
The 2016 election was stolen. Got a nicer way to say that?
Say Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked our election.
Russia hacked our elections.
A little louder, please.
Russia hacked our election. That was a 9/11 scale event.
This was a kind of cyber 9/11. American institutions.
9/11.
Yes.
Russia hacked our election.
Russia, of course, hacked our election here.
Half of Clinton's voters believe the conspiracy theory that Russia hacked Election Day votes.
We know that they were into voting rolls. Actual interference with the elections themselves. We know it happened.
Despite no credible evidence, 67% of Democrats believe Russia tampered with vote tally.
These are not normal Republicans. We're talking about something else. Certainly not the ones in control of the party in Washington or in Concord, which is why so many normal Republicans outside of Washington feel politically homeless, and we should welcome them into the Democratic Party. Because those extremist elements, they have taken that party itself to a place that is just further and further out of step.
With all of these issues going along with the supply chain, where is Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg on this issue? Well, we took a look at his official Twitter account today to see if he has been mentioning supply chain issues recently. Bob and Heather, we couldn't find any mention of supply chain issues as of late for Pete Buttigieg. A lot of folks online wondering, why is that the case and when will this be addressed?
Subscribe to the Dummy Funnies now!